What is up, ladies and gents of YouTube? It has been requested, and so here it is, the bread and butter build that all Terran should have under their belt, the 15 gas expand. Now this is a variation of a build that filters StarCraft hot and is Heart of the Swarm's Bronze to Masters series, and it is an extremely good build. I have used it twice myself on the EU ladder, using only this build to go from bronze all the way up to gold. I'm a high platinum player, and I play a lot of diamonds, and I practice with some diamond players, but, you know, I'm not hyping myself up. I still am a Terran player who's in the same boat as you, who wants to know builds that are effective, how to execute builds, and how to get better at the game, essentially. So I'm going to do the build order. You can follow along in an AI game, which is what I highly recommend, and after that I'll go into the key points of the build and talk a little bit about the specific matchups. But for the most part, it's a good, easy build to learn. It's great to have in your pocket, and it's very strong. It'll teach you the fundamentals, like if you're in bronze, if you're in silver, if you're in gold. I really recommend learning this build. It's a nice one to have in your bag. Beyond that, specific cheeses, we can talk about that too. Bronze, silver, and gold, the builds can be a little bit wonky, so I'm going to probably discuss this build way more in depth with demonstration games upcoming here in the next couple weeks. I'm traveling, but in about 2 weeks, I'm hopeful to have my Working Up from Bronze series, and I'll be using this build, and I'll be talking about how you prepare for certain things, how you handle different matchups. But for now, start yourself an AI game, load up, and pause as soon as you get in. Make sure the AI is set on easy, and I'll give you a countdown. Okay? See you in the build. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start an SCV. Queue up another SCV. There should be no downtime between the SCV and the next one building. Throughout this entire build, the SCV production is the most important part. Queue up another SCV. You should be at 9 supply. Set the rally of your CC to your small ramp. And queue up another SCV. You want to take that SCV who just finished and build a supply depot at your wall. Make sure you put that SCV on a hotkey and queue up another SCV. I usually put the depot building SCV on hotkey number 1. Continue building SCVs. You should be at 11 out of 11. We're going to supply block here for just a moment, but it's just a second. When you have 150 minerals, purchase a barracks. And continue building SCVs. Set the rally of the SCV building the barracks to your opponent's base so he can be your scout. Continue building SCVs. If you know how to mineral stack, mineral stack. Mineral stacking is where you click on an SCV and micro him onto one of the closer patches to get 2 guys to mine. Set the rally of your CC to one of your gas geysers, build another SCV, and start a gas with your 15th SCV. That's what they call 15 gas. 10 depot, 12 Rex, 15 gas. Keep building SCVs. You're only going to build 1 more after this one finishes. And start a marine as soon as the barracks completes. Set the rally of your CC back to your wall, put 2 SCVs in the gas, and start an orbital command. Build a depot to complete your wall off. Make sure you set the rally of that SCV down to your natural. And build another marine. We're going to be building 2 marines in total and then getting a reactor. You should be at 18 out of 19 supply. Drop a mule, begin an SCV, and start a reactor on your barracks. Cut SCV production at 19 supply. Build a CC at your natural. Resume SCV production.
Our SCV SCVs are under attack.
Queue up another SCV.
SCV ready.
Build a barracks.
SCV ready.
Build a depot.
Add-on complete.
Start 2 Marines. Buy an SCV.
SCV ready.
And build a barracks. You should have 3 barracks in total, 2 building. Start 2 more Marines. Buy an SCV. Drop a mule. Build 2 more Marines.
SCV ready. Armed and ready.
Build a Marine out of the barracks that just finished. Start an orbital. And send 6 workers to your natural.
SCV ready.
Send. Build a Marine. Add 2 more to the queue for the reactored barracks.
Boy. SCV ready.
Build a Marine with the barracks that just finished. And start 1 more Marine out of the
Upgrade
naked
complete.
barracks.
Coming through.
Scan your opponent. Get scouting information and keep SCV production constant here. Buy 2 eBays. Cut Marine production at this point.
SCV ready.
Build a tech lab. Build a barracks. Or excuse me, a reactor on your barracks. So you should have 2 eBays building, a tech lab, and a reactor building.
SCV ready.
Keep building SCVs. You will have to cut Marine production. Build a depot and build a second depot. This is where it gets tight.
Complete.
Buy stim pack, buy +1 attack, and buy +2 attack when possible. Keep SCV production smooth through that section, but you will have to completely cut Marine production.
Add-on
SCV
complete.
ready.
Keep building SCVs, and build a factory as soon as you hit 100 gas. Marine production is not constant, so when you can fit them in, prioritize SCVs here. Buy a refinery, buy another refinery, and finally buy a 4th. So you should have 3 refineries building.
SCV ready.
Now we can ease our way back into constant Marine production. SCV production has remained smooth throughout. Build a depot. I had to use a call down here.
SCV ready.
Build another depot and send 2 workers into gas, another 2 workers into gas, and your final 2 workers into gas. Keep SCV production smooth. Start a starport and build a reactor on the factory.
Ready.
Keep SCV production constant throughout. Make sure you add your starport to your hotkeys and start a refinery. Excuse me, an armory. Armory. Start an armory. It's really important we get that armory as soon as we can after the starport and reactor goes down.
This better be
It's going to allow us to get into +2/+2 very quickly. Keep building depots. Drop a mule. And at this point, the depots and the production is going to be kind of up to you. You're going to want to keep smooth SCV production throughout.
Add-on
Cut Marines where you might have to. We have too much production as is. Swap the starport with the reactor right now.
boy.
Build a depot. Start 2 medevacs.
required. Upgrade complete.
Build a
Upgrade
depot.
Complete.
And build another depot.
Research complete.
Buy +2 when you have the money for it. +2 attack and +2 defense should be on the way.
Armed and ready. SCV ready.
Buy combat shield. Keep building SCVs.
Ready for dust off.
Your first 2 medevacs should just now have popped. Buy 2 more, or if you wish to rush for a third, buy a 3rd base here in just a second. So cut Marine production, build a 3rd base right now inside your natural, and begin 2 more medevacs. The quicker way, and the way I'd probably recommend, is to wait for the third base, get 2 more medevacs, because we're waiting for 4 medevacs in total. That's our cue to go out and be active on the map. Keep building depots. You don't want a supply block, just keep an eye on it and stay ahead of supply. Don't stay super ahead, but having about 2 guys constantly building SCVs at this point is okay. Build a barracks, and build another barracks. This will bring us up to 5 in total. You should have 4 medevacs, a boatload of marines at this point. You now need to be active on the map. Go push across, see what your opponent is doing. Don't lose this army. Whatever you do, do not lose this army. Just be active with it on the map. It's a very, very mobile army, so use it carefully. You can pretty much escape anything at this point. You just want to use it to take control of the towers and figure out what he's doing. Keep building depots and keep building marines to restock.
Research complete.
And from here, you work your way up onto 9 barracks, and you get, 3-3 attack. So you can see the infrastructure is really, really nice. After you take, when your third finishes start in orbital, of course, get add-ons for your barracks. This is all pretty standard. Most of the time, build orders don't go this far just because you're going to have to choose how you want to play it out. But the standard way I'd play it out is after this third base finishes, you're going to set your third down, and you're going to go up from, you're at 5 barracks now, you're going to have sort of a mineral explosion while you're taking that third, and you're going to add 4 more barracks, which is what I'm doing right now. So add 4 more barracks, and you should be up to 9 in total as you take your third. This gives you a lot of power to push across the map, to have huge, like, by the time this is done, you're going to be pumping out so many marines, it's insane. So it's key you don't lose the first army, though. As Terran, we don't have the luxury of a warp gate or injects to really speed up our reinforcement time. So don't go stimming this into a tank line. Don't go doing some silly stuff like just balling it into a bunch of banelings or something like that. But at this point, you should be on 9 barracks. You should be able to produce out of all 9 barracks. You should be able to keep constant medevac production up, marine production up. You will have to cut medevacs to get extra reactors on your barracks. You can even add 4 more barracks. This will bring us up to a total of 13, which is just a ton of barracks. As you can see, we're at the 14-minute marker. And you can max out by 14 minutes with this build. If you do a certain direction with it, you'll max out right around 15 minutes with this build. It's a very, very powerful build. You could start another CC right now if you want to be greedy. Lots of ways to play it out, but good luck. And if you have questions, fire them and stuff. Also, the replay is available in the description below. Alright, time for the fun part. I'm going to talk about the different aspects of this build, how it stacks up for each matchup, and the important things to focus on while you play this build. I have a lot of slides here. I hope it's not going to be too dry. You can probably put something on in the background if you want. But for right now, let's talk about the most important parts of this build. Number 1 is that you're getting your natural command center down at 19 supply. That is really important because the faster you get that CC down, the bigger advantage you're going to have over your opponent. In Bronze, Silver, and even in Gold League, you have a lot of players who don't expand at the timings that they should. And this really hurts them because they can't produce the harvesters or the SCVs that they need to keep up with a build like yours. So that's why you need to make sure that CC is going down on the right time. The second is constant SCV production. Notice there was a few points where I told you to cut, but only a few. The SCVs are the most critical point of this game, and I'll tell you how many you'll need here in just a slide or two. And then finally, you need to be active on the map after you get 4 medevacs. Those 4 medevacs and all that army gives you a lot of staying power. Your goal is to take the towers, and your goal is to weed out any sort of proxy pylons or kill creep, get any sort of weird things. You want to have control of the map. You don't want to lose that 10-minute army, though. It's really important to note that 10, 11, 12-minute army is only going out on the map. You do check your opponent's natural, so you get your 4 medevacs, you do walk across the map, you take the towers, and if it looks like you can get to his natural, you go, you put a bit of pressure on, but you don't lose that army. If you lose that army at that point, if you can't win the game at the 11:30 point, don't worry. You're going to have way more production back home than almost anybody you're playing, and you're going to be able to reinforce that army a lot quicker than he is. But you just cannot, as Terran, lose an army in the same way that like a Protoss would. Better players will take more advantage of this. And I'm not putting Protoss down in that. I'm just saying Terran, as the way our race works, we don't have injects, we don't have chrono boost, and we don't have warp gates. So we can't really replenish our army at the speed of some of the other races. Just keep that in mind. Alright, so why are the SCVs so important? Well, as a Terran player, this is the life lesson you have to take away from this. SCVs are everything. SCVs are so crucial to how well you can spend your money and ultimately how big of an army you're going to have. Pretty much throughout all of StarCraft, like once you get into Platinum and you start playing Diamonds, there's a lot of strategy behind like when you hit a tech timing or when like 1-1 finishes. But for the most part, you win or lose a game of StarCraft because of how many units you have. Sometimes you can go clutch, but for the most part, the bigger army almost always wins. With the focus on SCVs, you're going to have more money than your opponent, you're going to be better equipped, and you're just going to have more stuff. So one SCV, like it says there, mines about 50 minerals per minute. If you miss one, it's going to impact your build by hundreds of minerals down the road. Like I said, this is a strong build for all three of the matchups, all the way through top gold. I still use this, and it still works in Platinum against Diamond players, but it is required that you practice this with the AI multiple times. No matter what level of play I'm at, whenever I learn a new build, I have to spend time in AI just to figure out, can I hit these timings on time? I need to hit these timings on time. And you'll notice if you can start doing that, if you can start hitting the timings, you're going to steamroll in bronze, crush in silver, and do pretty dang well in gold. The ideal amount of SCVs at 10 minutes is 48 to 51. 50 is about ideal. 51 is very hard to get to, but anything less than 48 at 10 minutes, you're not completing the build the right way, and you need to go back and reflect and figure out what's going on. Okay, so let's talk about scouting and responses. This is one of the things that I'm going to have to talk about way further when I actually do my working up from bronze series, because honestly, it's a very hard set of things to do. In bronze, in silver, in gold, nobody is really performing the meta. There's so many wacky, weird builds. There's so many crazy all-ins. But I am going to try and give you some general road markers and some general things to look out for when you're doing this build. Because if you can survive, here's the thing, if you can survive with this build, if you can macro it out, if you don't die to an all-in, you're going to beat almost everything you're playing against. So in Terran vs. Terran, you need to check for a wall off when your SCV gets to his base, and see if it has any tech on it, any reactor, or if it has a tech lab, see if the tech lab's researching. It could be some sort of marauder bust. If there's no Marines that are attacking your SCV, you want to leave that SCV by his barracks. And if a Reaper comes out and kills your SCV, that's what you're looking for. If a Marine comes out, okay, all good. Leave your Marines on the low ground to defend your natural. But if you see a Reaper, you need to then position those two Marines on high ground where the Reaper would jump up. So you're going to split like one on one cliff, one on top of the other cliff. This is in your main, not on your natural. And what that's going to do is, by the time your reactor finishes, you'll have more than enough Marines to stop a Reaper all in. If it looks like he's going to just do a proxy Reaper all in, if you get to his base and there's no barracks and there's gas, you might want to consider putting a bunker down near your mineral line. But for the most part, if you position your Marines at the top of the cliffs, you're going to stop the Reaper attack, no problem. It'll take a little bit of micro on your part, but that's about the only thing you really have to be worried about early game with Terran. So let's look at the 6-minute scout. So we're now 6 minutes into the game. You've just scanned when your orbital finishes, your natural orbital finishes, you've scanned your opponent, and you see a starport with a tech lab. What you need to do, if you see a starport with a tech lab, this indicates that he's going for a Banshee opener, which is pretty common in Terran versus Terran, and it's not very hard to stop as long as you identify that the starport has a tech lab on it. What you're going to want to do then is immediately save your command center energy. You don't want to toss down any mules because you're going to save that energy for scans. That way when the Banshees show up, you can pick them off. You're going to cut Marines, and you're going to put down an engineering bay. The reason we get the engineering bay so quick is so that we can get a turret in each mineral patch, and this pretty much completely stops Banshees. You'll put the turret in the middle of the mineral patch. It will make the arc and the path for some of the SCVs a little wonky, but when the Banshee arrives around like 7 to 9 minutes, this is like bronze silver, so I don't really know when they're going to show up. Like, it's a pretty fat margin when you get into bronze and silver and gold. People are doing builds with really funky timings. You'll completely shut it down and stop it, and it won't be an issue. At that point, continue with the build as normal. Your overall probably like medevac push is going to be a little bit delayed, but that's not a problem because you just stopped his attack. He invested into early game tech, and it didn't do much damage, and that'll completely shut down any sort of Banshee opener. Okay, next up we have the 111, which is where you scan his main, and you see that he has a barracks, a factory with a tech lab, and a starport that's naked. What you need to do at this point, a 1-1-1 is basically where the opponent gets a tank, a medevac, and some marines, and they push up onto your base, and they siege up on your natural. And they do a little bit of damage, but they're really preventing you from expanding. They're pretty common in the lower leagues, because it's really easy to do, and it can beat a lot of players if you're not prepared for it. So what you need to do right now is, after that 6-minute scan, you're going to take a watchtower with 1 marine. It's the closest watchtower, by the way. And then you're going to take the army that you have at that point and use them actively on the map to A, scout for your opponent, and B, prevent him from containing you. So the guy's goal is to take his whole army and his tanks to your natural ramp and siege up there. If he does that, you're probably going to have to get tanks or you're going to lose. We want to prevent that, and the way you shut down the 1-1-1 is you stop them on the middle of the map. You don't have to kill their army. That's the thing. You don't lose your army, you just kite his. So you go out on the middle of the map, you don't probably cross the 50-yard line, stick near that tower, and look for those tanks. And you'll see the tanks coming across with his marines, and all you're to do then is just poke. Little attack, walk back, little attack, walk back. And by doing this, you're giving yourself the time you need to push out more marines, and to also prevent him from containing you. Because 2 siege tanks that are unsieged are way weaker than 2 that are sieged up with reinforcements on the way. If you have trouble with that, you can of course Google it. And that's really it for Terran versus Terran. Don't ever stim your marines into tank lines. But this video, I'll talk more about this in my working up series. But let's look at Protoss. So when you scout in TVP, your initial scout is looking for gas and pylons. You're looking for the amount of gas and the amount of pylons. In my opinion, you're always going to want to get a bunker in this matchup. I'll explain the bunker timings as soon as I finish up the scouting. So if you see 1 pylon in his base and gas, you immediately need to think proxy. If, like the standard for Protoss is at this time, you should see 3 pylons in his base. That indicates to you, he's playing macro, there's nothing hidden across the map. But if you only see 1 pylon in his base and gas, it's almost always going to be an oracle opening or some sort of proxy something. So it's critical that once you scout a single pylon and some gas, you need to sort of figure out what's going on. I would just recommend to, in bronze and silver, assume it's an oracle, cut marine production, get an eBay, and get a turret ASAP. Oracles can absolutely wreck you. You need at least 5 marines to beat an oracle, and if you don't deal with them properly, you can be ruined. They can kill 6 SCVs in a blink of an eye. So it's a response you need to be familiar with, because it is something that's very common in TVP. Okay, so let's say that your initial scout sees 2 pylons and some gas, and Chrono is on the Nexus. It's unused. The guy isn't Chrono boosting out probes. This is most likely a 4-gate. So another big identifier when you're scouting Protoss is how much energy do they have on the Nexus. If they have a lot of energy and they're not spending that towards building more workers, what could they be saving it for, I wonder, as I stroke my chin? Well, they're saving it for some sort of early pressure army unit, most likely, and that's a 4-gate. And what a 4-gate is there's some pylon out on the map, it's a proxy, and they're going to be warping in a boatload of units off of one base to try and kill you between the 6 to 9 minute mark. What you're going to then do is get 2 to 4 bunkers, prepare, and the push will be like between 6 to 9 minutes. It changes because it's bronze. And just make sure you have SCVs on a hotkey ready to repair your bunkers, and as soon as you hold, you're way ahead, and you should crush it. You'll probably see a lot of 4-gates at this level, and you'll probably get really good at identifying it. Biggest key to look for is how much chrono is on the Nexus, and then have they expanded around that 6-minute scan. Finally, guys, if your 6-minute scan does not reveal any expansion, prepare for some sort of all-in. Get bunkers, get turrets to defend from Dark Templars, get SCVs on hotkeys ready to repair, and if you can hold, your economy is going to be way farther ahead than his since you took such an early base. And the last thing I want to note is, when you push out with that 11-minute army, your 4 medevacs, you go and you go to his natural. Don't lose that army. It's really easy to lose that army, especially if you just stim it into like a Nexus cannon, or if he has Colossus already out. Don't lose that 11-minute army. Try and do a little bit of damage, try and poke, get a little information, then get home and make adjustments according to what he's going to. Okay, we're almost there. TVZ. If you see no expansion when your initial SCV arrives, if he hasn't taken his natural, you need to build a bunker as soon as possible. It's probably a 6 or 10 pool. And you need to start a wall off. Anytime you are playing Terran versus Zerg, you always wall off. And if you don't know what that is, It's pretty standard in StarCraft. I'll go over it later. You should know what it is, but look for the spawning pool also with that initial scout. Is it researching speed? If so, get bunker before your third racks in between the second and the third. That's like 23 or 24 supply. If your 6-minute scan reveals there's a baneling nest, build 3 to 4 bunkers and brace for impact. If you can hold the Bane bust, you're going to be way ahead, basically. And although your like 4 medevac push will be delayed a bit, you're still going to be way ahead because you survived his early bust attempt. A lot of times the scan won't reveal the baneling nest. A good way to really test this out and know if he's doing like a baneling bust is have a Marine or two take control of the towers. That's a good way to play against Zerg. You always want to have a wall off done. And you could leave your SCV or an SCV just a little bit outside of his natural ramp. That way when he leaves, if he leaves with a boatload of lings, you probably can have a good suspicion that a baneling bust is coming. At this level, scouting is really hard to talk about, and I really just want you guys to focus on hitting the timings of the builds. You're not going to be able to stop every all-in. It's just impossible, and it takes a really, really long time to learn what to look for. I'm still, like, misreading builds a lot, but over time, you'll learn, like, the roadmap of how to, oh, he's doing X, I can defend with Y and then win. But in a macro versus macro game, this build is going to crush. So let's get to the last 2 slides, and I'll let you guys carry this build out into the world. Okay, the bunker timing. This is really important, and I didn't cover it in the build order because it changes for each skill level you're at. For a bronze player, you're always going to get a bunker after the 3rd racks. Standard. Just make it ingrained in your play. Now, if you scout some of the things that I spoke about earlier and you feel like, oh crap, I need to get a bunker down now! Early, because you see a Mothership Core Stalker Zealot pressure coming, go for it. I'm not going to discourage you from trying to read the game and make different calls. But to be the easiest, safest possible way, get your bunker after the 3rd racks. Like I said in the little note, it's going to slow the build down a little bit, but not by much. It's much more important to be safe in bronze because there's just the craziest stuff that happens ever. Now, silver players, start using your scouting info to determine when to drop the bunker. That 100 min rouge helps speed the build up quite a bit, and in silver you can start identifying when your opponent is going for an all-in. Looks like a little typo there, an all-in. But yeah, in silver you can start to use, oh man, he doesn't have a nexus yet, I should probably throw that down, or he hasn't taken a 3rd base as Zerg and it's 7 minutes into the game, I should probably get down an extra bunker or 2. So that is sort of the identifying patterns for you bronze and silver players. Let's look at gold players. In gold, you're going to be refining on this concept in terms of trying to follow the build's outline and getting the bunker at a proper time, one that allows you to be as greedy as possible but still safe. And basically, you start modifying your army. In gold, I'm figuring that you've played the game enough to figure out, okay, Terran has tanks, I need to get tanks as well. The Protoss is going Heavy Colossus, I have to get some Vikings in my composition. And oh, he's going Lingbane Muta and Zerg. I need to get some Widow Mines in this comp. That's really what's going to help you elevate this build to the next level. In terms of just going from bronze to silver with this build, the bronze league is really weird, like I said, but you're going to crush so many people at 10 minutes if you can hit these timings that it will just be a walk in the park. Silver, you'll start running into instances where you're like, I don't know why my whole army just died there. I probably shouldn't have taken that fight. And you're going to start learning, I can engage for a little while longer and keep expanding. Yeah, this is working out well. And then in gold, you're starting to figure out those fundamentals. You're starting to take map control, and you're starting to really feel the matchup a little bit. So if you guys have questions, I'll see you in the next slide. All right, thank you guys for listening to me yak for the last 30 minutes. Please revisit this video and practice that build over and over. I cannot stress, if you hit those timings, it's a baller build. So if you have questions and you want some follow-up, you can join my group on the North American server named BBK Dragoon. Add me, and you guys can PM me when I'm on there if I'm not laddering, and I'll try and answer. Also, if you'd like some replay analysis, you're having a really hard time, you're like, I've learned the build, BBK, and I'm still not getting it, and you're like a bronze through gold player, send me a YouTube private message to my main account with links to the replays. I prefer Drop SC or GG Tracker, and any questions that you may have. I will do my best to answer them when I can, and who knows, some of it might end up on the channel. Here's the big thing to leave it off. I'm going to be doing a Working Up from Bronze series in the next couple of weeks where I'm going to go into further detail on this build, teach more builds, and talk more about, I guess, the basic StarCraft fundamental stuff. So if you guys enjoyed, could you share this vid, and hope you have a really good day. Good luck crushing all with the 15 gas expand, and I'll see you out there on the ladder. Good luck, have fun.